Donna Schwartz here from the Everything Saxophone podcast. We're day 4 at the NAMM 2024 show. All of the podcast episodes from the NAMM 2024 show are being sponsored by Rovner Products. So I'm at the Claude Lakey booth over here with Steve and Tyler. Welcome, guys, to the podcast.
Thanks.
Awesome to have you on. So tell us a little bit about the history of the Claude Lakey Mouthpieces.
So Claude Lakey was in the Harry James Orchestra and some other orchestras before World War II, and after. He played trumpet originally, and so there are actually some Claude Lakey trumpet pieces out there that he marked his name on. I don't know what work he did to them, but it's kind of interesting.
That's cool.
So he switched to saxophone to play for the Harry James Orchestra because Harry James played the trumpet, so he was never getting any solos. So when he picked up the sax, he noticed it doesn't project. They're using classic mouthpieces, old Selmers and, some of the older Van Dorens and stuff. So him and Brillhart and Beechler and some of the other players back then kind of used to get together, and they would, a little geek out about it. Like, I did this, I carved this out, I tried this, to get these mouthpieces to produce, because they wanted to, when they solo, they wanted more projection, more brightness, more volume. And so a lot of what was left in the pieces was him raising the baffles and carving out chambers and some of the changes to what we consider now modern mouthpieces from modern pop rock mouthpieces from what used to be pretty much classic mouthpieces that people were forcing to do what they wanted to do. And so he was known in Sepulveda at C&D Music. He would take players, they would come to him, and he would work with them for hours, carving out pieces,
wow, changing
the pieces, having them play it, then making changes, and having them play it and make changes and change things on it, change the rails, change the facing links, and carve the openings out, carve out the chambers, open up the tips, all that kind of stuff. And then, so we always get people come to us and say, oh my God, I used to know Claude Lakey. I would come to they met him and he would give them stuff, or he would, they worked a lot with, they have the Tonight Show band would come in, and back then they would come in, and Tower of Power would come in, and they'd have him work on his pieces. So a lot of the famous players from in that time frame, 60s, 70s would come in, and they all knew him, and they would work with him, and he would sit with them for extended periods of time and work on the pieces. And in the end, that left us with, a legacy of what he kind of decided was sort of the overall best way to go with mouthpieces, the chamber openings and tip openings that work the best. And our 7-star 3 is probably, it's sort of like a power band for our original pieces. It's like the one that is purchased the most. Its size, tip opening, and facing length, and all that just kind of works out to really project and be the most useful for the largest customer base. So.
Awesome. I love the word legacy. Because I was just thinking about that. He established a legacy, and with his company. And in terms of how the mouthpieces are made, can you talk about from back then, 60s, 70s, compared to now?
Sure. In the beginning, they all of the brands you see as modern mouthpiece companies were getting blanks from other people. Like, they'd get Selmer blanks, they'd buy like bags of them, and they would just modify them and take off the name, and they do all kinds of work to them. That's pretty much everybody, right? Then they originally started to get closer to what they wanted. They kind of figured out they'd just use that as a plastic tube pretty much and work with it. Then they started making their own molds, their own starting points, and move on from there, right? Currently, we have our own molds. It's a second generation. A lot of people do ask us, like, hey, I really love the first one. Well, the first molds, failed us probably 10, 12 years ago. They just can't really make. So we will be going back to those molds. Like, I bought the company 8 years ago from my father-in-law, who had it from Claude. We are looking to go back and see if we can, if modern technology can bring us back some of the original molds from Claude. But
wow, that's pretty cool.
I don't know that yet. I've wanted to try for a while, but this show has made me like, no, I'm gonna go do that. So yeah.
That's so awesome. So in speaking about like how the mouthpieces are made, so Tyler, I think you have some contributions when it comes to that, because you're the one that's making the mouthpieces now.
Yes. Well, I mean, they're like you said, injection molded. They come out in like a range of kind of like a 6 to 7 kind of range, and I have to like file off all the excess material, buff it, stamp it. All of it's done by hand. All the work's still done by hand.
Okay.
So I'm the one sitting there on the sandpaper, doing this type of thing, getting all the face length perfect. And yeah, like you were saying, this is like the power band mouthpiece. This is the one that I just always think sounds the best. Some people prefer bigger sizes, obviously smaller sizes, but this is like the one. So yeah.
For the sound profile for this, who would be the best player that would fit?
Somebody who's looking for a brighter sound that can cut through more. Yeah, I'd say like more of a soloist type of person. But you can also get kind of a quieter sound on it. More, I get really good subtone on this mouthpiece, I think. But yeah, somebody who's looking for a little bit of a brighter profile, maybe not like a Paul Desmond, but kind of the opposite of that a little bit, but also not smooth jazz either. Something.
Right.
Yeah.
Not something.
Yeah, pop rock. Yeah, but you can still blend in with your section.
You want to be able to compete against some of the other pieces of musical instruments in the group, right? And that was one of the problems they had back then. Was guitars were coming on, electric, amplifiers were coming up, and the saxophone players were feeling a little lost because they couldn't be heard. So
100%.
one of the big driving factors from getting away from the classic is that they just needed to be heard in the group. Like they weren't being heard over guitars and drums and all this other stuff. People getting amped up, right? So they needed more power.
And do you also feel that this would be good for jazz big bands and stuff like that?
Yes,
that's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
I definitely do, especially if you're like a lead alto player. I definitely think this is like the mouthpiece you should at least consider trying. So, yeah.
Got it. Okay, cool. All right. And now we wanted to talk about some newer mouthpieces right over there.
Mm-hmm. Right.
All right, so one of the requests we've had recently is in Mexico and South America, they're coming with the Banda music, which is kind of a marching mariachi. I don't want to define their music, but it's very loud, and the clarinets are competing against trumpets.
Oh yeah.
So they want to open up like clarinets like nobody's ever opened up clarinets like this new brand of music once. So we're having sizes up to 8, and they're requesting us to go to 12. Like they want us to like bend the rules of science to get these things open. And we've heard things like, we don't care if it sounds good, just loud. And I'm like, we sort of care, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to get them open for them, but still tunable, and still
quality.
Still quality, right? But it's a back and forth with them. A lot of players down there that they were sending parts back and forth to them. They're testing them, giving us ideas how they want it open more. There's definitely some other people in the space, but we're trying to answer that as a request from the client, from the customer base, right? Like
that's the best kind of request. So here you have a clarinet piece right over here.
Yeah, this piece has been opened up to 11, so it has double asterisk. We don't even have an 11 stamp.
It's not going to show
but then it has the facing length. It's kind of like we're testing facing lengths on it. So this has a 48 facing length on this one. We're trying to see if 40 is better, 48, 50, what we need to do on a facing length to give the reed more movement for them, right, for more vibration. So we're thinking longer facing lengths better, so we get more movement, because they just really want these things to scream.
And what kind of, like a saxophone, a lot of times when we have a larger tip opening, most people tend to use a lesser strength reed and stuff like that. So it could be the same situation.
My guess, they want to use pretty light reeds so that they get more. They just want this thing to go.
To vibrate. And
they really want a loud sound.
Yeah, Banda music. It's really cool. But it can be really loud. So I can understand the plight of the clarinetists when it comes to that.
Yeah, they're going against literally mariachi trumpet players right behind them, right? So they want to be heard as well, right?
And not just one trumpet player. There's usually at least 5 or 6. Yeah. Maybe a couple of clarinets.
And then a tuba and drums. I mean, it's pretty.
It's intense.
It's pretty exciting stuff. So we're really excited about helping out, and they've had a hard time getting some manufacturers to kind of take that seriously, because it's very niche. But we're trying to help them. We always have wanted to try and help musicians make music. So.
What's great about this? It's not only meeting a customer's need, but think about it. It's cultural. So you're matching a cultural need that hasn't been addressed before.
Yeah, and there aren't a lot of manufacturers in South America. There's Barclay, they're super great people. We're talking and working with them, but there's not a lot of manufacturers, so they have to kind of come to us and ask all the people to help them, and it's like, well, we should listen, we have to listen to that and help them out.
Also kind of redefining the clarinet sound when you think about it, because the conception of a clarinet sound is more, classically based, but also you have the thought of like a Benny Goodman, jazz band,
subdued,
doubler type of
filling. It's a filling sound, right? And
round,
these people want to be
they want
the
to be
loud,
heard,
they want to be a different trumpet, right? Like a more aggressive but more malleable trumpet, right? They want more notes, more easier notes,
range,
more
flexibility.
range.
Yeah, that's really cool, I gotta say.
So they are redesigning music.
Yeah.
I mean, they really some of these new music forms are just really redesigning our what we consider the piece should do. The same like Claude and Beechler and Burlhart and a lot of those people from our past redesigned the saxophone for modern pop and rock, and they redesigned the saxophone mouthpiece. These guys are helping us redesign the clarinet mouthpiece. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
that's very cool. All right, and what else do we have on the pike over here? What's going on?
Here we have our Apollo piece, which is a machine made. So it's a machine manufactured blank, and then we hand finish and and get it plated in gold or rhodium. And then we have it also.
I'm going to steal that. Hold on.
Yeah.
I got to show this. Oh my gosh, that's really
so
heavy.
it's a brass blank, and
Holy
then it's hand finished.
Look at this.
And then gold plated.
My God, that's really, really nice looking. And yeah, well, okay, just get a look on the inside of that. And also over here against my head, so you can see that. You can see that. Okay, go over here. That is really nice.
Thanks.
We have to talk about rhodium and what that does.
Yeah, and then also the ebonite piece, which is made in the same machine, but with a German ebonite. Currently, it has a marbled, appearance. Another request from customers, because before it was just solid black, and then they would confuse it with just plastic. And this is a machine milled piece by a Boeing manufacturing company, so it's made to some pretty high standards. And then
that's nice.
We hand finish it, of course, and buff it and get it nice.
Awesome.
This is the rhodium.
This is rhodium. So rhodium is a harder metal like platinum, but quite expensive. We may or may not stay with rhodium because the price of rhodium has tripled, quadrupled. It may go to, there's also a white bronze that I've seen in plating that we did some testing with, which is also hard, and it's the same silver color, but just the expense is, you can keep it in the price range.
This is really, really nice looking. And in terms of tonal quality with rhodium,
rhodium, we haven't really noticed much difference between gold and rhodium. The base metal, the brass, really defines the vibration through the piece and stuff, and any muting of that is more formed by the shape of the mouthpiece, and then the weight of the mouthpiece is where it affects. So you get a brighter tone out of the metal and a little darker tone out of the plastic, because there's a little less vibration through the plastic.
Right.
So it subdues the tone a little, which gives you a little darker. And some people, some players are looking for that. They're not looking for bright. If they want really bright, they move more towards the original.
Or they could also change their beat too.
But the Apollos give the professionals a little more control over the tonation, so they can get a little more subdued. They can go warmer. It's also a little easier playing over time. A little wider beak, a little easier for them to play.
Got it.
A little less air needed, so they don't get tired quite so easy.
Sure. And I'm just going to do a little pan over here, so you all can see this nice little display. I know we're behind the table a little bit, but just that was really nice looking. So anything coming up? I mean, we are in 2024, but anything coming up for later in this year?
Yeah, we're looking at another. We have rubber tooth guards, right, that we sell. We're looking at some thinner thinner rubber tooth guards. Some people like the 0.8, some like the 0.4. So we're looking to get, we've had a problem with manufacturing of that, but we're looking to get a thinner tooth guard with our logo on it. And then we're working with the clarinets. We're looking at the old molds, trying to see if we can, believe me when I say there's a lot of people talking, like they've always said, hey, I really love that old one, the Claude. Is this like the old one? Is this the, we're like, it's the, it's the same. I don't, but it's, can't argue with them. They know,
no,
they know,
true.
right? They know
that's
what
true.
they want, and I want to give them what they want, right? And then we're trying to work with some manufacturers on some OEM, like student pieces. So we might be making some smaller pieces, so that students can break in a little easier. Some pieces with a little smaller tip openings, so
That's
they're
cool.
easier to control.
The theme that I'm finding from this is that you're responding to customers' needs, that, what the customer wants. And while sometimes it doesn't always fit in what we perceive for certain instruments, right, like clarinet and stuff like that, but you're starting to be more, it's not niche. You're actually responding to customer needs and addressing those issues that are coming up. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Especially for a legacy company.
It really is. And when I think about it, that's what we started with. We started with the original, this group, they're not all still here, but the original group that sat down, got together in hotel rooms and passed pieces around, and we're talking about what they've done and what they've seen and how they've changed it and how they got brighter, how they got louder, what they did, and sharing that with the other people. To nowadays, like if someone wants to change what we need for music, we have to help that.
Yeah.
You can't push back against that. You need to help that.
And that's the cool thing. You have a legacy, but you also have that awesome story. I think this is an awesome way to end this interview. This was so great. I'm so glad I got a chance to meet you and get more of the history of Lakey Mouthpieces, and congratulations on your success.
Thank you so much. Have a nice show.
You too.